I think public. Yeah, we're good. Public, all right. I think we are. Yeah, all right. Make sure we're on live chat. We go. Oh, I just able to the chat like. What if I do it like that? Oh yeah, that'll work. Guess I can get started. Wait, what if you're reading this, it's likely because you're at your wit's end. You've been watching too many scary movies, or maybe you've read a few too many creepypastas, or perhaps you've just been left alone with your own thoughts for far too long. You keep hearing suspicious noises, and you're not sure. But you think that shadow in the corner just moved? Or you just feel a presence other than your own, and you've become uneasy. At this point, you just want to know. And you want to know for absolutely sure. Is there something in your house? Should you be worried about it? What's gonna happen to you if you succumb to your desire and close your eyes and go to sleep? Well, you've come to the right place. Hello, are we listening today? Yeah? I'm doing some creepypastas reading today. Gonna see how well I can live read. If you really want to know, I will now delegate to you the first of many methods. This ritual is designed to detect the activity of the supernatural, demonic, or worse. Here's what you'll need. A staircase. Preferably one with 12 or 13 stairs, excluding the landings. You can do it up to 16. It is extremely inadvisable that you use a staircase with 17 or more stairs, or a staircase with 11 or less stairs. A small portable fan. It's suggested that one that runs on battery. If you have one, you can use a fire puffer as an alternative. A cup of water, a handful of dirt, a candle. Make sure it is the one that will not burn out so easily, and something to light it with. Picture of your house, or whatever stood in place of your house from as far back as you can get. A picture of your house as it is now. A pair of dice. 2 watches, or small clocks. Preferably analog, but if you only have digital, that's fine. Food offering. It must be an animal product. A mirror. A handful of ash. A few dust bunnies. A bug, or another living and easily overpowered creature. something from your body, a toe, fingernail, a lock of hair, saliva, blood, a tooth, etc. Salt, a weapon, preferably one made of silver. To begin, you will want to prepare your stairs. You must be aware of the exact time that you begin this ritual. You must begin during the afternoon, as the entire ritual must be completed during PM hours. If you have 12 or 13 stairs, you will start by standing on the bottom landing. If you have more, stand on the bottom stair and place the first item on the next stair. From here, recite. Is from here, whenceforth I shall commence. On the first stair, place a small fan, but don't turn it on. If you're using a fire puffer, fill it up with air and don't puff it out. Place it on the stair instead of a fan. As you do so, recite. Here is the air that mortal breathes. On the second stair, place the glass of water. As you do, recite. Here is the water that mortal drinks. On the third stair, place the handful of dirt. Try to spread it wide. As you do, recite. Here is the earth which mortal stands. On the fourth stair, place the candle, but don't light it. Leave whatever you intend to light the candle beside it. As you do, recite. Here is the fire that burns mortals' hands. On the fifth stair, place the picture of your house from the past. As you do, recite. Here is the time that has come to pass. On the sixth stair, place the picture of your house as it is now and roll the dice beside it. Pray does not come up a higher number. As you do, recite. Here is the present, and the die are cast. On the seventh stair, place one of your watches. As you do, recite. Here comes the future. Time ticks by now. On the eighth stair, place your food offering. As you do so, recite. Here is the offering, devil's mouth. On the ninth stair, place a mirror. As you do so, recite. Here is my image. In God's likeness, I trust. Note, regardless of whether you're a Christian or religious at all, you must recite this line as it is phrased here, without any substitution, citation, or reservation. On the 10th stair, place the ashes and the dust bunnies. As you do so, recite. Here is immortality, ashes and dust. Hello, Nim. Welcome to the stream. The 11th stair, place your bug. Make sure it cannot get away. It must be alive. As you do so, recite. Here is a life I present unto thee. Great audio today. Oh, thank you. On the 12th and final stair, place the thing from your body. As you do so, recite. And here is the essence extracted from me. Step on the top landing or the final stair and turn around. Draw a line of salt across the edge of the stair/landing. Recite simply, no further than here. Keep it at this level always. I'll try my best. Now, leave your objects overnight. On this night, you should not notice anything suspicious or concerning. If you do, abort the ritual by placing a salt circle around each item, around your bed as well as anyone else's bed in your house. Leave them for the night, and then remove the items the following morning. You must completely obliterate them all. If you do not notice anything suspicious or concerning, and are able to get a good night's sleep without any nightmares or without waking until daybreak, the ritual is officially in effect. Whenever you wish to, you may complete it. It will remain in effect as long as all the items remain in the stairs. However, none of the items should be allowed to fall from their stair or overlap into other stairs. Do not allow the salt, dirt, or the ashes and dust to spill over onto another stair. If you must, keep them in a container of some sort. The water must remain open to the air, so be careful not to spill any of it. Do not leave anything beside those items on your stairs. In performing this ritual, you have banished any supernatural or demonic demons or beings in your house to the first floor, and they must get past the 12 curses you have set on your stairs before you can get to you. Believe me when I say, if they didn't already despise you, they will now. Refrain from making any unnecessary trips down your stairs, or up and down your stairs, after sundown, as this weakens the curses. Depending on how strong your supernatural/demonic beings are, these curses might not hold more than a couple of nights. As soon as you start to notice even the most subtly peculiar activity, immediately consider completing the ritual. This ritual cannot be reinforced by repeating it. If you sleep on the first floor, do the ritual backwards, starting from top of the stairs instead of the bottom. All the same rules apply. If you don't have stairs in your house, you can do the same ritual as long as you can clearly see 12 divisions. You may mark them with tape, lines of salt, which would create a stronger barrier, and so. Or you can place a long, thin piece of wood at regular intervals down the hallway. All the same rules apply. Do not perform this ritual in a room. Do not perform this ritual outside. Do not perform this ritual in any small enclosed space, such as a tent or car, if it's even possible for you to do that. To complete the ritual, it is advised you evacuate everyone else from your house. Let them stay the night in a hotel or something. You must do this alone. In the exact place where you resided, it is from here whenceforth I shall commence. Exactly the same time when you originally recited this line when you initiated the ritual. Make sure you have your weapon in hand. You must stand there for the first hour. You must not move or be moved. Your feet must remain planted in place. As soon as the first hour ends, step onto the stair with the fan. Turn it on as quickly as possible and let it run across the stair. If you use the puffer, puff out the air that was inside it. Do not move from that stair for the entirety of that second hour. Facing on top of the stairs, do not in any circumstances turn around or look behind you. As soon as the second hour ends, onto the stair with a cup of water. Leave the fan running or make sure there's no air in the buffer. Drink the glass of water as quickly as possible. Do not move from that stair for the entirety of the third hour. Stand facing the top of the stairs. Do not in any circumstances turn around or look behind you. As soon as the third hour ends, step onto the stair with the dirt. Your feet must both be within the pile of dirt that you threw on the stair. If the dirt was in the container, dump it onto the stair as wide as possible to give yourself more space to stand on. Do not move from that stair for the entirety of the fourth hour. Stand facing on top of the stairs. Do not in any circumstances turn around. Look behind you. As soon as the fourth hour ends, step onto the stair with the candle on it and light it. You may stand beside it or hold it to your face. Make sure it does not go out. Do not move from that stair for the entirety of the fifth hour. Stand facing the top of the stairs. Do not, under any circumstances, turn around or look behind you. As soon as the fifth hour ends, step onto the stair with the picture from long ago. Without turning around, you must use the candle from the last stair to burn the picture. Don't blow out the flame until it has turned to ash, or at least until you cannot tell what the picture is of anymore. Do not move from that stair or for the entirety of the sixth hour. Stand facing the top of the stairs. Do not, under any circumstances, turn around or look behind you. As soon as the sixth hour ends, step onto the stair with the picture of the present day. You must rip this picture as many times as the dice indicated without letting it fall apart. Do not move from that stair for the entirety of the seventh hour. Stand facing on top of the stairs. Do not under any circumstances turn around or look behind you. As soon as the seventh hour ends, step onto the stair with the watcher's small clock. You must turn the clock forward as many hours as the number on the dice. Do not turn it back to achieve the same number. Do not move from that stair for the entirety of the eighth hour. Stand facing the top of the stairs. Do not under any circumstances turn around or look behind you. As soon as the eighth hour ends, step onto the stair with the food offering. It may have been there for a few days, so hopefully it hasn't gone too bad. You must take a bite out of it and swallow. You must eat it as if it is delicious, even if it is disgusting. Do not move from that stair for the entirety of the ninth hour. Stand facing on top of the stairs. Do not, under any circumstances, turn around and look behind you. As soon as the ninth hour ends, step onto the stair with the mirror. Look into the mirror and look only at your face. Do not try to use the mirror to look behind you. No matter what you see in the mirror, you must not look away. Do not move from that stair for the entirety of the 10th hour. Stand facing the top of the stairs. Do not, under any circumstances, turn around or look behind you. As soon as the 10th hour ends, smash the mirror and step onto the stairs with ashes and dust. You must drop a blood onto them. It must be your blood. It must be fresh. Do not move from the sad stair for the entirety of the 11th hour. And facing on top of the stairs, do not, under any circumstances, turn around or look behind you. As soon as the 11th hour ends, step onto the stair with the bug. kill bug. Do not move from that stair for the entirety of the 12th hour. Stand facing the top of the stairs. Do not, under any circumstances, turn around or look behind you. As soon as the 12th hour ends, step onto the stair with the thing from your body. You must swallow it whole. You must not wash it down with anything. Not move from that stair for the entirety of the 13th hour. Stand facing the top of the stairs. Do not, under any circumstances, turn around or look behind you. As soon as the 13th and final hour ends, step onto the place where you resided. No more than here. Make sure you have your weapon in hand. Turn around and brace yourself. Good luck. Credit to Spooky cousin Spooky Noodles for the story. How was that? I definitely started a bit there. Sorry. It was very nice. Oh, thank you. Your voice is perfect. Oh, thanks. I noticed that my default I never changed my default mic. So I hopefully the static that would randomly appear is gone now. Alright. We'll move on to this next story. Tiki Toby. You gang narrate multiple audiobooks. Aw. I don't know. I'm my cadence is well, we'll see. I've never listened or read Tiki Toby before, so say that again after this, and we'll see after this story. Because I'm going into this one blind. Alright. What was it? Tiki Toby, written by Castaway. Yeah. Yes. Your audio today is on point. Yeah, thanks. And of course, I stumble on the first sentence. The long road home seemed to go on and on. The road continued to stretch in front of the vehicle endlessly. The light that shone through the branches of the tall green trees danced across the window in random patterns, and every once in a while, obnoxiously shining in your eyes. The surroundings were full of deep green trees forming a forest around the road. The only sound was the sound of the car's engine as it traveled down the path. It was peaceful and left a serene feeling. Although the ride seemed like a nice one, it lacked every form of nice from its two passengers. The middle-aged woman behind the steering wheel had neat, short brown hair that fit her complexion quite well. She wore a green V-neck t-shirt and a pair of blue jeans. Diamond stud earrings decorated each of her ears, which partially showed behind her haircut. She had deep green eyes, which her shirt brought out, and the lighting seemed to make it even more noticeable. There wasn't anything significant about her appearance. She looked like any other average mother you would see on TV shows and the like. However, the one thing that made her different than average mothers was the dark bags that she had under her eyes. Her facial expression was gloomy and sad, although she genuinely looked like someone who smelled a lot. She would sniffle every once in a while, and occasionally glance in the rearview mirror to look at her son in the back seat, who was hunched over partially, with his arms held tighter across it around his chest, his head pressed against the cold window. The boy lacked any normal appearance. Anyone could plainly see there was something wrong with him. His messy brown hair went every which way, and the luminescent lighting brought out his pale, almost gray skin. His eyes were dark, unlike his mother's, and he wore a white t-shirt and scrub pants that had been provided for him by the hospital. The clothes he had worn before were so shredded and bloodstained that they weren't even wearable anymore. The right side of his face bared a few cuts along with a split eyebrow. His right arm was bandaged all the way to the shoulder, which had been shredded when his right side hit the shattered glass. His injuries appeared to be painful, when in reality, he couldn't feel anything. This was just one of the glories of being him, one of the challenges he had to face while growing up, was growing up with a rare disease that caused him to be completely numb towards pain. Never before, he felt himself get hurt. He could have lost an arm and it felt nothing. The other major disorder he had faced, which was one that deemed him many insulting nicknames in the short time that he attended a grade school before he switched to homeschooling, was his Tourette's syndrome, which caused him to tick and twitch in ways he couldn't control. He would crack his neck uncontrollably and twitch every once in a while. The kids would tease him and call him Tiki Toby, and they mocked him with exaggerated twitching and laughing. It got so bad he had to turn to homeschooling. It was too hard for him to be in a common learning environment with seemingly every kid poking, or more like stabbing, fun at him. Toby stared blankly out of the window, his face empty of any emotion. And every few minutes, his shoulder, arm, or foot would twitch. Every bump that the car tires would hit would make his stomach turn. Toby Rogers was the boy's name, and the last time Toby remembered riding in a car was when it crashed. That's all he thought about, unconsciously replaying everything he remembered before he blacked out, over and over again. Toby had been the lucky one. His sister had not been so lucky. When the thought of his sister came, he couldn't help the tears that welled up in his eyes. The horrible memories replayed in his mind. Her screaming had cut off when the front of the car was smashed in. It all went black for a moment before Toby opened his eyes to see his sister's body, her forehead pierced with glass shards, her hip and legs crushed under the force of the steering wheel, and her torso pushed in from the too late inflated airbag. That was the last thing he had ever seen of his dear older sister. The road home continued on for what seemed like forever. It took so long to get home because his mom wanted to avoid the site of the crash. When the surroundings gave way to a familiar neighborhood, they were both more than ready to get out of the car and step back into their own home. It was an older neighborhood with quaint little houses all next to each other. The car drove in front of the blue house with white window panes. They both quickly noticed the old vehicle that was parked in front of the house. A familiar figure that stood in the driveway. Toby felt automatic anger and frustration over him at the sight of his father. His father, who wasn't there. His mother pulled the car up in the driveway beside him before turning off the engine and preparing to step out and face her husband. "Why is he here?" Toby said quietly as he looked back at his mother, who reached to open the car door. "He's your father, Toby. He's here because he wants to see you." His mother responded in a monotone, trying to sound less shaky. Yet, couldn't drive his way to the hospital to see Lyra before she died. Toby narrowed his eyes out the window. "He was drunk that night, honey. He couldn't drive." "Yeah, when is he not?" Toby pushed the door open before his mother stumbled out the driveway, where he met his father's gaze before looking down at his feet with a stern expression. His mother stepped out behind him and met her husband's eyes before walking around the car. His father opened his arms, expecting a hug from his wife, but she walked past him and put her arms around Toby's shoulder and started leading him inside. "Honey," her husband began with a raspy voice. "What, no welcome hug, huh?" She ignored her husband's obnoxious words and walked past him with her son under her arm. "Hey, he's 16, he can walk by himself." His father began to follow them in. "He is 17. Honey glared back at him before opening the door to the house and stepping inside. "Toby, why don't you get in your room and rest, okay? I'll get you when dinner is ready." "No, I'm 16. I can walk by myself." But Toby said sarcastically and glared back at his father before stumbling into the small staircase and turning into his room, where he slammed the door violently. His little room didn't have much in it. Just a small bed, a dresser, a window, and his walls, had a picture frames of his family back when they were a family, before his father became an alcoholic and acted violently towards the rest of his family. Toby remembered when he was arguing with his mom and he grabbed her by the hair and shoved her to the floor. And when Lyra tried to break it up, he pushed her and she hit her head on the kitchen counter. Toby could never forgive him for what he did to his mother and sister. Never. Toby didn't care how much his father beat him down. He couldn't feel anyway. What he did care was how he intentionally hurt the two people he cared about. And when he was waiting at the hospital, where his sister took her last breaths, the only one who didn't rush there was his dad, Bang. Toby stood by the window and looked out at the street. It is sworn he saw something out of the corner of his eye, but quickly blamed it on the meds he was on. When dinner time had come and his mother called up to him, Toby came down to the stairs and hesitantly sat down at the table across from his father, and in between his mother and an empty chair. It was quiet as his parents picked out their food, but Toby refused to eat. Instead, he just watched his dad with a blank stare. His mother caught on to his staring and elbowing him slightly. Toby looked at her slightly and then down at his uneaten food, which he still didn't touch. Toby laid in B. He pulled in his covers over his head, stared out the window. He was tired, but there was no way he would fall asleep. He couldn't. There was far too much to think about. He had been debating on whether or not to follow his mother's directions and forgive his father, or continue holding the grudge with his boiling hatred. He heard his door creak open, and his mother padded into the room and sat on the next bed next to him. He reached over and rubbed his back, which had been turned to her. I know it's hard, Toby. Trust me. I understand. But I promise you, it will get better, he said softly. When is he gonna leave? Toby said with an innocent tone in his shaky voice. Connie let her gaze fall down to her feet. I don't know, honey. He's staying for as far as I know, he replied. Connie let her gaze fall down to her feet. I don't... Oh, sorry. Toby didn't respond. He just continued to look forward at the wall, holding his damaged arm near his chest. After a few minutes of silence, his mother sighed before she leaned in to kiss his cheek and stood up to walk out of the room. Good night, she said as she closed the door. The hours passed slowly, and Toby couldn't quit, tossing and turning. Every time he let his imagination take over, he heard the screeching of tires, the screaming of his sister, and he would uncontrollably chuck in the bed. He threw off his cover, laying on his back. He pulled his pillow over his face and cried into it. He couldn't bear to hear his own pitiful weeping. He would have been screaming and crying if he didn't press his pillow over his face. After a few seconds, he threw the pillow off his face and sat up, hunched over, holding his head and breathing roughly, tears streaming from his eyes. He couldn't help but cry. He tried to keep it in, but he couldn't stop whining and whimpering as he sat there shaking. He inhaled before he stood up and walked around his bed to the window and peered out, taking deep breaths, trying to calm down. He rubbed his eyes and looked out at the group of tall pine trees across the street. He stopped suddenly, his gaze centered on something standing under the streetlight. He heard ringing in his ears and couldn't look away. The figure stood beside the streetlight, about 2 feet shorter than it did, long arms draped at its side, as it stared up at him with non-existing eyes. The figure had no facial expressions to speak of, no eyes, no mouth, no nose. Yet it held Toby's hypnotized stare, seemingly peering into his very being. The ringing in his ears grew louder and louder as each second as he stared before it suddenly went all black. Next morning, Toby woke up in his bed. He felt different. He wasn't tired at all. And when he consciously woke up, it felt like he was lying there awake for hours. He had no thoughts flowing through his mind. He sat up slowly and stumbled over to the wall. But when he stood, he automatically felt dizzy. He stumbled to the doorway and walked down the stairs. His parents were sitting at the table. His father was tuned into the small TV that sat on the computer top. His mother was reading the newspaper. She quickly looked over when she felt Toby's presence looming behind her. Good morning, sleepyhead. You've been sleeping forever, she greeted him with a hesitant smile. Toby slowly looked over at the clock and noticed it was 12:30 p.m. I made you breakfast. but it got cold. I was going to wake you, but I felt that you needed sleep. Her expression fell from happy to worried as the sun resisted responding to her. Are you alright? Toby stumbled over and sat by his father. He felt as if he was on idle and had no control over his actions. He was seeing everything he did, but I didn't register in his brain properly. He reached out to his father's arm, but his hand ended up being getting slapped. His father turned to him abruptly and pushed his chair over Walter's foot. "Don't touch me, boy," he yelled. His mother stood up. "All right, know that off. That was the last thing we need." The days went by. Things continued on as they were. Connie spent most of her time cleaning the house, and her rude husband spent most of his time ordering her around. It was just like how it used to be before the crash. Toby never really left his room. He would sit by his bed and tremble. His mind would wander, but his thoughts changed too fast to be remembered. He would pace around his small room like a caged animal, or stare out the window. The unhealthy cycle continued. Connie continued to be pushed around by her husband and way too submissive to him, and Toby remained in his room. Before he can think twice, he would begin to chew on his hands, tearing the flesh from his fingers. He would gnaw at his hands until they bled. When his mother walked in on him while he was doing so, she reacted horribly. She rushed to him downstairs and grabbed the first aid kit, wrapping his hands in bandages. Afterwards, she demanded he wouldn't leave her side again. Toby isolated himself so much he grew to hate being around others. His memory grew glitchy as well. He'd start missing memories of minutes, days, and so on. He would continue walking, or he would begin talking nonsense about things that completely unrelated to the conversations he would have. He would go off about seeing things, sharks in the sinks as he would wash his dishes, hearing crickets in his pillows, and seeing ghosts beside his bedroom window. His mother grew anxious about his mental health, and that she decided it would be good for him to talk to a professional about what he was feeling. Connie walked Toby into the building, holding his hand and guiding him in. She walked him up to the front desk and began talking to the lady who sat behind it. "Mrs. Rogers?" the lady asked. "Yes, that's me." Connie nodded. "We're here to see Dr. Oliver. I'm here with Toby Rogers." "Yes, this way." The lady stood up and led them down a long hallway. Toby looked at the framed artwork down the halls and tuned in to the sound of the lady's high heels on the hardwood floor. She opened the door to a room with a table and 2 chairs. "If we can get him to stay here for a few minutes, I'll get the doctor." She smiled and held the door open. Toby stumbled in the room and sat at the table. He looked over at his mother and the lady before the door slowly shut behind them. He looked around the room before he held up tightly bandaged hands, began to bite at the bandage to unwrap his hands. But he was interrupted as the door swung open and a young woman in a black spotted dress with light blonde hair stepped in, holding a clipboard and pen. "Toby?" she asked with a smile. Toby looked up and nodded. "Nice to meet you, Toby. My name is Dr. Oliver." She put her hand out for him to shake, but hesitantly pulled away as she noticed his bandaged hands. Oh, she smiled nervously before clearing her throat and sitting in the chair across the table from him. So I'm gonna ask you a few questions. Try to answer them as honestly as possible. Okay? She placed her clipboard down on the table. Toby nodded and held his restrained hands on his lap. How old are you, Toby? 17, he responded quietly. She wrote down on the paper she clipped on the clipboard. What's your full name? Toby Aaron Rogers. When is your birthday? April 28th. Who is your immediate family? Toby paused for a moment before answering her question. My mom, my dad, and he stopped. My sister. I heard about your sister, dear. I'm really sorry. Her expression faded into a sad, pitiful look. Toby nodded. Do you remember anything from the crash, Toby? We looked away from her. His mind went blank for a moment. He looked down at his lap, and in the surrounding area, heard a faint rigging sound. His eyes widened, and he froze in place. Toby? The counselor asked. Toby, are you listening? Toby felt a shiver down his spine until he froze again. And slowly, he looked over the little window through the door where he saw it. A dark, featureless figure peering in at him. He stared, eyes widened, the ringing growing louder and louder until suddenly a loud voice of the counselor broke his trance. Toby, she yelled. Dr. Oliver stood up, holding her clipboard to her chest, a surprised look in her eyes. Toby met her eyes again, his breath hitching as he twitched. That night, Toby lay in bed. His eyes were dazed as he stared straight up at his ceiling. He could feel himself begin to doze off when he heard the scattering footsteps down his hallway. He sat up and looked towards the doorway, his door wide open. There was no light. Everything was lit by the luminescent blue glow of the moon through his window, leaving a cold lighting. He stood up and slowly made his way toward the doorway when suddenly the door, which was previously wide open, slammed in his face. He gasped and fell back. He was out of breath when he hit the ground and he began to breathing heavily, his eyes wide open. He waited for a few seconds before getting back onto his feet. He reached out and grasped the cold door handle with his bandaged hand, and it creaked open. He looked out into the dark hallway and tiptoed out of his room. The window at the end of the hallway lit up the darkness and blue moonlight as he padded his way down. He could hear footsteps rustling around him, the faint giggling, followed by the pitter-patter of small feet, which sounded like a child had run in front of him, giggling and running around. The hallway was a lot longer than he remembered. It seemed endless, like a ride home from the hospital. He heard the door creak in front of him. Mom? He called in a shaky voice. Suddenly the door slammed behind him and he jumped and turned around. Behind him, he heard a long, eerie groan that sounded like a croak in his right ear. He turned around as fast as he could and suddenly faced himself and none other than his dead sister. Her eyes were clouded white her skin pale, her right side of her jaw dangling there by tissue and muscle, glass protruding from her forehead, black blood leaking down her face. Her blonde pulled up in a ponytail as it always was, and she was wearing her gray t-shirt and athletic shorts, which were dirty and spotted with blood. Her legs were bent in ways that they shouldn't be. She stood emitting a long croaking noise only an inch away from Toby's face. He yelped and fell back. Ah! He had started to crawl backwards from her, but he was unstable, unable to break the eye contact he held with her blank, dead eyes. He dragged himself backward while he backed up onto something. He stopped for a second. Everything was dead silent, except for his breathing and crying. He slowly looked up to meet the blank face of the tall, dark figure, the same figure that stood over him now. Behind the tall mask were rows of children looking from range from 3 to 10 years old, and their eyes completely black, and dark black blood leaked from their eye sockets. He screamed and stood up as fast as he could, only to be tripped by dark black tendrils that wrapped around his ankle. He fell straight onto his stomach and got the wind knocked out of him. He tried to scream, but he couldn't make a sound. He wheezed out, and it all went black. Toby woke with a start. He screamed out and sat up as fast as he could, completely short of breath. He wheezed out and held out his chest with his bandaged hands. It was just a dream. Just a dream. He lay back on his bed and rolled over to his side. It felt like against the weight had lifted off his chest as he took in his deep breaths. He stood up, headed over to his window. He saw nothing. Nothing else was there. No ghosts. No figures. Nothing. He heard the rustling and coughing of his father outside of the doorway. His door was closed. He walked over and opened it, looking out into the hallway once again. He patted down the hallway and into the kitchen where he found his dad, standing over the smoke in their living room. Toby waited for a second and watched him from around the corner of a burning feeling started deep in his chest. Deep, boiling anger took over him. He heard the little imaginary voice in his head. Do it. Do it. Do it, they chanted. He turned away and held his arms. He felt like he actually had control over himself, unlike he did the past few weeks since he got home from the hospital. He had complete thoughts just for a moment, and before the chanting of his little voices in his head clouded them. Kill him. He wasn't there. He wasn't there. Kill him. Kill him, they continued on. Toby trembled. No. No. He wasn't going to do it. What? Was he going crazy? No. He won't kill anyone. He can't. He hated his father. There was no way he was going to kill him. That was it. The last thought before he fell into an idle state once again. The influences in his voices in his head was too much. He began to silently walk up to his father. He reached over to the counter, the knife in the case. He gripped it to his hand. He felt the sensation take over his chest. The snicker. He began laughing so hard that he gasped for breath. His father turned around abruptly before he felt the brute force shove him to the floor. He grunted as the air was knocked out of him. What? He looked up to see the boy who stood over him, grasping at the kitchen knife in his hand. Toby, what are you doing? He went up to sit up with his arms in front of him in self-defense. Before he knew it, Toby was on top of him. He went to grab his neck, but his father reached out and blocked his hand by grabbing onto his wrist. "Stop! Get off of me, you little fucker!" He yelled. With his other hand, he threw off an off-center punch at Toby's shoulder, but he didn't stop. The look in Toby's eyes was not the same. It looked as if a demon had taken control of him. He yelled back and went to stab the knife into his father's chest, but his father blocked him and grabbed onto his wrist once again. He went to shove him back, but Toby kicked his feet out in front of him and landed a hard blow straight to his father's face. His father recoiled and pulled his arms away to cuff his face, but Toby got back and drove the knife straight into his shoulder. His father let out a cry and went to pull the knife out. Before he could, Toby threw his fist straight into his face. He began to pound his fist into his head, laughing and wheezing. He cracked his neck and grabbed the knife and ripped it out of his father's shoulder. He drove it deep into his dad's chest repeatedly and stabbed into his torso, blood spilling and getting splattered everywhere. He didn't stop until his father's body went still. He threw the knife over the side, leaned over his father's body, coughing and panting. He stared at his father's smashed-in face and sat there, twitching, till a loud scream broke the silence. He looked over to see his mother, standing a few feet away, covered her mouth, tears streaming down her face. "Toby!" she screamed. "Why did you do that?" she cried. "Why?" she screamed. Toby stood up and began to back away from his father's bloody corpse. He began to back out of the kitchen. He looked down at the blood-stained bandages on his hands and looked at his mother one last time before he turned and ran out of the house. He ran into the garage and slammed his hand against the control panel on the wall and pushed the button to open the garage door. Before he ran out, he noticed his father's hatchets, which had been hanging onto the tool rack above the table, full of jars filled to the brim of old rusty nails and screws. One of the hatchets was new, with a bright orange handle and a shiny blade. And the other was old, with a wooden handle and an old, dull blade. He grabbed both and looked down at the table and saw a box of matches, and under the table was a gasoline tank. He held both hatchets in one hand and grabbed the matches and gasoline before running out of the garage, before down the driveway and up the street. He approached the street light that he could see down his bedroom window. He heard police sirens in the distance. He turned around. The red and blue flashing lights came rushing down the street. Toby stood for a second before he pulled open the cap of gasoline tank and ran down the street, spilling gasoline all over the streets after him. He turned and ran into the trees, poured the last bit of gasoline out before he snatched out into the pocket and pulled out a match. He struck it against the box and immediately dropped it. In an instant, flames burst around him. The fire caught on the trees and bushes around him. Before he knew it, he was surrounded by fire. The silhouettes of police and cars were visible through the flames as he backed away into the forest behind him. He looked around, but his vision was blurred. His heart was pounding, and he closed his eyes for a moment. This was it. This was the end. Toby felt a hand on his shoulder. He opened his eyes and he looked over to see a large white hand with long bony fingers resting on his shoulder. He followed that arm to see it was attached a dark, towering figure. It appeared to be wearing a dark black suit. Slenderman? What? Sorry. And its face was completely blank. It towered over Toby's small frame and it looked down on him. Tendrils reached out from its back. Before Toby knew it, his vision blurred, and he heard the ringing in his ears. Everything went black. That was it. That was the end. That was how Toby Rogers died. A few weeks later, Connie sat in her sister's kitchen. Her sister Lori sat next to her drinking a cup of coffee. About 3 weeks ago, Connie lost her husband and her son, and a few weeks before, she had lost her daughter to a car crash. Since then, she moved in with her sister. The police were keeping her busy, and they had just finished cleaning up the case. And the story had been released 2 weeks ago. The focus of the world seemed to have shifted completely to news stories. Lori switched onto TV and on the news broadcast. On the TV, the news reporter began introducing a new headline. We have breaking news. Last night there had been reported the murder of 4 individuals. There had been no suspects yet. The victims were a group of middle school students who had been out in the woods late at night. The kids had been bludgeoned and stabbed to death. Investigators have discovered a weapon in the crime scene. It appears to be a dull blade hatchet, as you can see here. The picture to show snapshots of the weapon exactly as it was left on the crime scene. Investigators pulled the name of a possible suspect, Toby Rogers, a 17-year-old boy who stabbed his father to death a few weeks ago and tried to cover up his escape by setting a fire in the streets and forest area around the neighborhood. Although they believed the young boy had died in the fire, investigators suspect Rogers might still be alive due to the fact that his body was never found. Ah, that was actually a pretty good story. I'm kind of sad that I never actually listened or read about it back when it was released. Hopefully I didn't stutter too much. Alright, but what was the consensus? How did you all like the story reading? Very nice. Glad to hear it. Yeah. I guess we'll see in the VOD and see if there's anything that I'd want to tweak. But this or great first read. Yeah. I definitely sorry about the Slenderman plot twist. Caught me very much in surprise. Yeah, but or the 2 stories was all I had for today since this was the experimental stream. Hopefully I'll have more stories on the next time I do this if I end up doing more live readings. Just keep the audio level here, please. Alright. I'll do my best to keep it here. Alright, but this will be it for me. Yeah, 2 stories are good. Yeah. Oh, actually, you know what? Wait. Real quick, my throat's really dry. Oh, Rip, are you gonna squish? Or are you just gonna... I'm trebling it, yeah. Always remember, we're all trebling it. Hopefully, you all have a good day, or night, or morning in my case. Yeah, I'll probably be going to bed soon here since I've been up all night. Oh, right. Bruh. What? I took a nap. Though it's not like I like I've had a very sporadic sleeping schedule lately. It's been like uh I a few days ago I like woke up with a pulled shoulder and like it's been like really rough. Like it hasn't stopped like being sore. That and like my thigh has been acting up too with like you know what? the Yeah, because it's like I usually just sleep like on my stomach, but I've been like forced to sleep on my like back just because like it does not feel good. I will drop kick you. Oh, that's mean. Why would you drop kick little old me? Alright. In any case, I guess is you a dummy, a cute one but a dummy. You know what? Fair enough. I'll agree with you on that. Him. Alright. But yeah, again, have a good day or night or morning. Bow bow for now.